right, so this morning you're in the car with Steve and I as I am schooling him on the finer points of something that God showed me this morning. And it has to do with two words. And I love the word yada in the Bible, which actually is the word that translated we refer to sex. And in the original Hebrew, it's fascinating. You can see in Genesis 4, and it says that Adam laid with Eve, or Adam yada Eve, and they bore Cain. Well, in the way that word is described, yada in Hebrew is to know or knew. So he knew Eve and they conceived Cain, which means that sexual intercourse and knowing are one and the same in the Hebrew. And so interesting that yada refers to a deep knowing, a very intimate knowledge. And so that's kind of been churning in my brain for a little while. And then this morning, or probably for the last couple of days, but God was just kind of pulling this together for me this morning. This word vulnerability, and the word vulnerability, which there's no place where we are more vulnerable, where the fig leaves have come off, than during sexual intercourse. So it is the deepest level of vulnerable. And what is vulnerable? Vulnerable is leaving yourself open to weapons of harm that can hurt you physically and emotionally. I think that's really interesting. We try to make that authentic. We try to make it a whole bunch of words, but it's really opening yourself up to these kind of weapons of war that can really hurt you. And so as I was thinking through this word new, which sexual intercourse is, and vulnerability, which is the greatest place of vulnerability is during sexual intercourse. And I'm talking to God about it, and he said, connected to your core longings. So let's take a look at what core longings have to do with being known and being vulnerable. And I went through the list of core longings: purpose, love, belonging, understanding, safety, security, and significance. And I started to think about the definitions of those things. And interesting, if you take the word know and the word vulnerability, all of those core longings deal with those two things. Basically encapsulated in all of our core longings are known and being known, and vulnerability, which is the posture to know and be known at the deepest level. And I thought, wow, that is incredible. Here we are in a world where we hide from people because people have hurt us. We build incredible walls to not let them in. We say things like we don't want to be known. We hide behind Facebook posts and Instagrams of just projecting this false self so we can keep people at bay. And yet the place of being known at the very, very deepest level, and the most vulnerable level where we can be more hurt than in anything else, we actually are just given away everywhere for free and with whoever comes along. And I'm like, that's just a head scratcher that Satan really was able to pull that one off and deceive us in that way. I think the other thing that is really amazing to me is, Steve and I have been doing this video series on sexual brokenness, and the fact that the union of man and woman brings femininity and masculinity together, believing that when Adam separated Eve, or took, woman out of man, it was taking the feminine aspects of God out of the masculine. There was a separation, and bringing the masculine and feminine back together give us a representation of who God is, and a triune God, because we're made in our image, which is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So amazing that we have this representation. Sexual union comes back together, represents that union. It is a powerful, sacred thing. And here, Satan coming after that powerfully sacred thing cheapens it to the point where the thing that can be used against us and damage us more than anything, we cheapen and give away and allow other people to hurt us at really deep levels.